you're right.
Jonathan? So let's get right to it. Do you want to start with some quick introductions?
Sure, we'll do it as always, Dom.
You guys can go first.
Molly Guterman, Business Operations Analyst.
Michelle Golden, HR Staffing.
Stephanie Workman, HR.
John Cash, Chief of Staff.
Andrew Langenbeck, General Counsel's Office.
Deidre Wittenberger, Director Budget.
Joshua Jackson, Principal, Creekside Middle.
And then do you want?
Kristen Casella, School Social Worker. Kelly O'Brien, School Psychologist.
Jennifer Miller, Alternative Ed.
Deanna Newsom, School Math Teacher.
Adam Rosenberg, Instructional at Atlantic High.
Carla Wormington, Speech Language Pathologist.
Robert Price, Instructional, Creekside.
Jonathan Brody, Band and Chorus, New Smyrna Beach Middle School.
Matt Lawrence, View.
Beth Friedel, View, staff.
Elizabeth Albert, President, View.
Lakita Howard, Professional Learning Specialist.
And then we have Miss Stillwell.
Yes, you list it back in the quarter.
Okay.
Hey, do you want to do the folder?
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
That's okay. All right, so we have the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Here, I'll just give you that whole thing back.
Thank you.
Don't you need one?
All right, come
All right, you
here.
ready? All right, we'll do theirs. Stephanie, Mr. Cash, Mr. Cease, Michelle, Dr. Mr. Langenbeck, Dr. Evans. No, last time. Dr. Evans
He
was
was
not
not.
here
Yeah, he was
last
not.
time. Ms. Douglas. I didn't think Mr.
Josh was
Jackson
not here last time either because he was sick.
Okay, and then Mr. Harris. Okay, on our side, we have me, you,
Yep.
Lakita, Mallory,
Yep.
Matt,
Yep.
Deanna, Adam, Taylor,
Josh wasn't.
Yep.
Tucker's not
Robert.
here tonight.
Robert Rice,
Yes.
Marlo,
Yes.
Jen Miller,
She'll be here. She just texted me that
Jonathan,
she.
Kelly O'Brien. Okay, so we started at 4:46.
Yes.
Good. Approve the minutes. And then we did a conversation, we had a conversation about TSIA, Article 26. So the district passed the general funded salary enhancement sheet. So this all came from the district.
Right.
We showed some PowerPoint slides and we had a conversation and then no additional articles. And then we ended at 6:08. Okay, so we have, the minutes are great with the corrections that Dr. Evans and Mr. Jackson were not here.
Okay.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so in an effort to really move quickly and efficiently, I have this deck.
Start.
Okay, all right, good. So we are going to start with Article 18.
Okay.
So we told you that we wanted to open that one. So that is maintenance of the classroom.
Sorry. That's okay. No, I just about knocked it over.
So this will be the first time we send this one across. All right, you ready? Do we need any extra copies? I think I have two. Okay, so in Article 18, our first proposed change comes in Section C under school disciplinary procedure. We are just asking that teachers receive a copy of the discipline matrix. We need them to have that document so they know what to expect discipline-wise. Down towards the bottom of C1, you'll see that we have made some changes in the sentence that talks about notifications once those referrals are placed in focus. So the sentence that we are amending, we'd like it to read, VCS shall notify teachers when referrals are merged or deleted. The deleted is new, and the prior sentence was working to develop a way for notification, but since we are fully now into this process for a couple years, we feel that we should just be notifying teachers.
May I ask one
yeah.
quick, okay, and no specific way, correct? Like it could be an email, it could be.
Well, in writing is preferable. That seems to be the way we are notifying.
Okay.
All right, when you're ready.
one.
on the back. Number 2. So this is a problem that has been brought to us multiple times, and so we're throwing this language out here as a starter of the conversation. So what we know is that we are hearing about delayed reaction times when teachers are pressing the panic button on the wall or asking for assistance. So I want to work with you on this, but what we're proposing here is the administration shall respond within 5 minutes of the request, and that's when we're asking for assistance. 5 minutes of the request, and the student shall be removed from the classroom. In the event that the administrator is unable to respond within the allotted time, the teacher shall have the authority to request a staff member to remove the student, so campus advisor, someone of that capacity. So again, the rationale behind putting this proposed languages in here is to get some metrics behind what happens when the button is pushed or when the call for help is made and getting a response time. We are creating a second paragraph in between this standing one that says, if a student receives a referral for a level 2 or higher offense as set forth in the Student Code of Conduct and Discipline, they shall not be readmitted into the same class period or within 30 minutes at the elementary level unless they are accompanied by an administrator. Elementary students shall not be returned to their cohort during special area. So the reason behind this is we need to make sure that if a student is going to be readmitted into the classroom, there is communication between the administrator and the teacher. I can tell you firsthand as an elementary teacher, there have been times when a student was removed from my room on a referral. I go pick up my kids at specials or at lunch even, and that student is in the group. That's why I put cohort, we put cohort in here, and I have no communication from admin about what has happened. We also, at the secondary level, are noticing same class period for that purpose.
So, just so I'm clear on the administrator's role in this, so let's say something happens right at the beginning and we'll use a class period. At the beginning of the class period, it's a level 2, they go down. As long as the administrator brings them back and gives the instructor an explanation, then they're okay to return before the end of that class period.
So what we're looking for is communication. And in
okay.
the subsequent paragraph, it does talk about communicating in writing.
Okay.
And we did strike preferably because we want the communication in writing. If it's not a face-to-face conversation where, like I worked with Tucker, right, with Mr. Harris, and so if he's bringing a kid back, come and talk to me and tell me why the child is coming back.
But if he's not bringing them back, just give me something in writing
Yes.
before the kid returns the next day.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I just wanna make sure I was clear on
Yep,
it.
and I believe that most administrators are following that practice, but we need to make sure that everyone does,
Okay.
and that's why we're suggesting it there. All right, that is all we have in Article 18. Okay? So, moving on, Article 15, we are going to counter what was proposed initially.
Sorry. Two.
You're all right. You're struggling with the
I
schedule.
am.
I have one of those.
It's been a long day.
All right, we ready to go? All right, in the original proposal that was sent over to us, the only proposed changes were in section C, but you'll see that we have started in section A with the transfer. So in section A2, this is the language that talks about the ability of a principal to hold a teacher who is going to transfer a period of 20 days. We're asking to reduce that to 10. Okay, because we want to expedite those approved transfers and just go ahead and make that happen. You'll see down in section 4, and I don't know why the 4 ended up being red, but this is the language that talks about bargaining unit members who are voluntarily transferring at the end of the school year. What we're asking for here is that we do not limit the ability to transfer more than once during the summer. We shut that down 2 weeks prior to the first day of pre-planning, which is the time when the transfers cease anyway. And let me explain why we're asking for this. Sometimes changes to administration are made we used to have a process in this district when we knew all of the administrative transfers were gonna take place on one date and time. And so it was a really big deal. Everybody watched that school board meeting because they wanted to see who was moving where. That's no longer our practice. So we found that, there are times when someone transfers and then a principal change is made and they have an opportunity to transfer again. Or a position at the district might open up and they want to have the ability to transfer into another position. We're not suggesting that we create chaos during the summer, and I can anticipate that's kind of what you might be thinking about. But until that 2-week period before pre-planning, when we shut them all down anyway, we're proposing that we have some flexibility there. So we're wanting to have a conversation with you about that. I can think of some very recent examples that happened this past year that prohibited folks from maybe taking a next step in their career.
So you're saying one addition. So let's say during the transfer fair, I accept the position at Creekside Middle. And then Josh has moved, someone new comes in, like, don't think I wanna work for them, and then I go to Atlantic because that's where Josh goes.
Or I accept a position at Creekside Middle, and then a position opens up in the district math department for a teacher to work there, a regional resource teacher, and I wanna apply for that because I'm a math person. So that, yes, that's
So-
essentially why we're asking for that.
But not for like a third time or a fourth time?
We can limit it to
Okay.
one additional, absolutely.
Okay, that's,
Yep, okay.
okay.
All right, so then we're getting into section B, where we're talking about involuntary transfers due to changes in enrollment. So this is where we get into the displacement language. So what we're asking for here in section 1 is just a modification to the communication between VCS and VIEW, where I'll read what we have proposed here. The process used to justify the changes in enrollment and allocation shall be communicated to the union in advance, and the union shall be provided an opportunity to review and discuss the data and rationale prior to the implementation of any transfer decisions. So we're just asking for better communication on the process. When we shifted to funding positions for using the FTE projections, that was a really hard change, and it would have been an easier transition into that method if we would have been able to be in the conversations that happen with the district decision makers instead of on the receiving end when the teachers and staff are told. So that's there. Moving into section C, section 1. Again, this has to do with involuntary transfers due to reduction in allocations. We are asking that prior to a displacement, all certifications held by a teacher shall be considered. If 2 teachers hold the same certification, then seniority as defined in Article 16B shall be considered, with the least senior of the 2 being displaced. We know that we had a situation this past year where there were 2 individuals with the exact same certifications, and the individual with the greater amount of VCS years of service was displaced. We find that to be inappropriate, and so we believe that seniority, dedication, longevity, and commitment matter, and we want that to be taken into consideration when we have a situation like we explained here. Good so far? All right, moving into section 3. Again, this is a proposed change on how the communication of displacements are communicated to us. We would like to be notified at least 1 business day prior to the affected teachers being notified. And the reason is we found even just recently with the 10-day count and those displacements, we were on the receiving end of the data after individuals were supposed to have been told, and we found that some of them had not been told. So we want to know 1 business day ahead, and it can be at the end of that day, that's fine, who is going to be displaced. And then finally, and I think this is very important that we talk about this is the last page of Article 15, and we've been talking about this for a long time. Dr. Evans just looked. I want to have a conversation about non-reappointments. We've talked about this many times for a couple years now. We believe that when a bargaining member is non-reappointed, and these are annual contract teachers we're talking about, teachers that have a contract to work 196 days, one school year, and then their next contract period starts the first day of pre-planning the following year. We believe that if an annual contract teacher is non-reappointed in any year, and if they are rehired either through the job fair or in having a conversation with a past principal, someone that they worked for, that they should not be identified as having a break in service. We believe that in those occurrences, or actually it says prior to the first day of pre-planning, we believe that there has not been a break in service because they have satisfied every obligation that they had in their 196-day contract period for the prior school year. And then if they are hired before pre-planning and they start on day one of pre-planning, then there is no deficit or gap in the subsequent contractual year. So we would ask that they not be considered as having a break in service. I know that we in the past have had conversations about the cross-point system and how the job records are built and how folks have to be pulled out and put back in because of the system of cross-point. My understanding is with Focus, it won't be that way anymore. Am I correct in that? Isn't that what we discussed?
I'll let you know when we get to when we do that
Okay,
first stop, because
but-
honestly, I can't answer that.
All right, but we know that there are multiple negative impacts that happen to individuals who are in this.
Hold on one second. Jerry, can you turn up the volume? Is there any way? I received a text. Okay.
So what we know is that there are absolute consequences that negatively impact employees in this district who, because it's allowable by law, a principal can make a decision to non-reappoint them without any reason given. They make a phone call or they go through the process and they are picked up immediately or before the next contractual year by another principal, but they are placed back at starting teacher pay on the placement schedule because of the compression that we have. They lose standing in other areas where they could be earning additional money. They're VSET, they're back to a 1A category, like they're a brand new teacher. And Stephanie, you know, because we've talked about this, we have in the last year probably 6 teachers that have, 6 or more teachers that have more than 6 years of VCS service in this district. One had 12 years of stellar service in this district, was a mentor. So that means the district hired that individual to mentor brand new teachers to teach them about best practices in the classroom, but because an administrator used the evaluation tool as a weapon, now this individual and her family are financially negatively impacted because of this break in service process that we're using. And that person, speaking very specifically, that person had a job 2 days after she got the, if that even, 2 days after she got the non-reappointment notice. And would have transferred within the school year if we had allowed a transfer beyond the first 9 weeks. So I think this is an area that we have the ability to do some good for folks. And if you want to talk about the timeline, we can talk about the timeline, but we've got to fix this. We have the ability to fix it, and I really think we need to.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. We want to counter on 22.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I get that this time. I focused.
This is going to be very familiar to you.
Deja vu?
Yes. Okay, so 22 is the leave provision articles, and I want to just say up front that it is very important to us to try to get this language into the contract, so we are offering some alternatives. We put something out initially, it was rejected, so here we come with trying to get to a compromise. So in section A3, we are asking for parental leave. We are asking for 4 weeks or 20 consecutive days of parental leave. So I hope you recognize the movement there. All of the language that we had proposed previously is still the same.
Okay.
Noting also in section E there that it is now identified as parental leave based on the conversation that we had last night.
Okay.
Section E, that's the same, same as we had proposed previously. Moving through.
Last page.
Yeah, well, I wanted to identify where we had accepted those changes prior, but I guess it's not really necessary. All right, and then to the increments of time taken for leave.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so the last counter proposed language that we are referencing here is bereavement. And we are asking now for 2 paid bereavement days during the academic year. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday. You know, if you want to work with us in that section 2 to identify how you would amend that as far as the definition of immediate family, we'd like to have that conversation with you because we believe it's that important.
Okay.
Get this in. Any questions? Okay? All right. Then the last article that we want to counter with is 26. That's our compensation article. And you know, we have norms, so Matt, of course, is going to be a part of this conversation as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and start. You'll see that we are sticking with our desire to provide advanced degree supplements to all individuals who have an advanced degree regardless of the area of certification, but we have a consideration that we'd like you to think about.
Okay.
What we're proposing here is a 2-year plan to roll this out. So we're suggesting here in this proposal that employees with 10 or more years of Volusia County Schools service would be eligible this year to receive the advanced degree supplement, and then in the subsequent year, 26, 27, then we would pick up the remainder of the folks. So we recognize that there is a cost here, and what we're suggesting is we try to split the cost over 2 years. Again, knowing that other Central Florida districts are offering this, and we've got to be able to compete. There is a line where we hit tenured folks, I think it's year 18? 17, 18, so tenured folks are grandfathered in and they're not a factor in here. So we kind of figured we would get as close to the middle as we could and pick up 10 or more, and then the rest would be next year, and that could be planned for as well. Because costing it out is a little tricky, but this is our ask to you for consideration on how we might be able to get something done here.
Okay.
Splitting it over 2 years. You'll notice that we are, we're gonna keep supplements the same for now. We are still very much wanting to do a 206-day schedule. I know that you referenced there are other job roles in the district that have the 10+10, and I'd like to know.
The first one that comes to mind are the deans. They are the same, and it's the exact same thing. They have their 196-day schedule, and then they have the 10 days, which are arranged with the principal to to do additional administrative duties.
So are those deans also on those 10 days not getting paid for their advanced degrees? And I don't know if they have a job role stipend because they're not in a contract.
Well,
but-
their advanced degrees, because they're administrative, would only be if they receive a specialist or a doctorate, because that's how it works for admin. And, yes, because it's the same flexibility. If they cannot or choose not to work those days, then they're just not paid for them.
But their master's degree, because it's a requirement of the job, is built into their base pay?
Yes, yes,
they're
just like
not-
it is with APs and so forth.
Right, so they're not negatively impacted like the 10+10 instructional folks are, because the 10+10 instructional, the master's degree is not a requirement necessarily for.
For the majority of the people that this would hit, I would honestly have to go and look, because I do know that some of them, I do believe it requires a master's, but I would
Well,
have to check.
and so that's my next
Yeah.
talking point. If we have job roles that are 10+10, but they require an advanced degree to be in that position, then we really need to work on this, because we need to make sure they're getting that additional pay on those 10 days.
Okay.
But there is also another way to correct it further down here, and
Okay.
we need to explore it. Okay, all right, so going back to the next page, you'll see that we are still wanting to have a conversation about class load caps and providing a supplement for class sizes that exceed a maximum number. Now, this section could be no cost if we were able to get those class sizes down. That could cost nothing. We are also continuing to identify the student support services with those caps as well for an additional supplement. Moving on to the next page. We are again asking for consideration that the retention supplement be prorated through the 24 paychecks, just like the advanced degree supplements are right now.
Which means I do want to remind you that if that is done, then it is subject to dockage.
But it is now anyway, right?
No. The retention supplement, if
A
it.
lump sum, yeah.
Lump sum,
I
right,
gotcha.
right.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if
well.
if we make 24 installments
Mhm.
and they miss a day unpaid,
Mhm.
then that would be docked as well. So I do want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I gotcha. So, on the average, how many folks actually go into unpaid leave? Is it a lot? I don't have
Yes.
any parameters.
Yes, it
A
is
lot?
more than you would think. It is more than you would think.
Okay. Okay, you'll see that our retention supplement, we have to do something with retention. We can't let our mid-career and veteran teachers not continue to receive a benefit for their loyalty and longevity. Matt, do you wanna say something?
Yeah, just kind of thinking about the retention supplement piece. I'm only been here for 8 years, but I know that since 2011 and that law change, we've really seen kind of a decreasing on an inflation-adjusted basis for our veteran teachers. That's why we created this retention supplement a few years ago, was because of the compression issues. And so that is the way we can decompress, if you will, outside the frameworks of TSIA and outside the frameworks of a base salary. So we really do think it's important that we put money here again for our really like 20-year and later, but it's also like in the teens at this point, people with experience on that compression is very real. And so this is a good way to kind of create some of those gaps that used to exist with the step schedule that are not allowed anymore. So that's why we think it's important to continue putting money in retention.
Do you wanna talk about the next section, the COLA?
Yeah, so still asking for the 4% COLA across the board, but again, in that effort to decompress, keeping the salary placement schedule at 49,201. So that 4% would not apply to that
First
brand
year.
new.
Entry level.
I'm
First year
in
entry
my
level.
24th day of school at this point. And that is again, just to continue to decompress. It's what we did in the support contract last year, almost creating like a step zero, right? Same idea, just moving everyone along the schedule.
Okay, as we continue through the article, you'll see under in-service payment, we do believe that when in-service is approved by the superintendent for payment, it should be at the individual's hourly rate of pay. Moving down into section B4, we have the language about creating the 206-day payment salary schedule, or the salary schedule. But if you look at the paragraph at the top of the following page where it defines base salary, if you didn't want to do a 206 standalone schedule, my wondering is if we just changed how we identify base pay, and we include an advanced degree supplement and job role stipend in the calculation of base pay, then I guess we wouldn't have to have a 206, because all 10 plus 10 would then be paid at the rate we're trying to get them paid. So for example, if I'm a SLP, speech language pathologist, right? And I have to have and I have my advanced degree, and then I get a stipend for my job role. Every day that I work for the district as an SLP, I should be earning the same amount. When I come in on those extra 10 days, I don't come in to be a custodian or a clerical person. I come in to be an SLP. So I should be earning the same amount that I earned during my 196, because I'm doing the same things. If I was coming in a different capacity and working in another job role, well, then that would be a different conversation. So I think that this is perhaps something that was not realized when the law changed and the advanced degree supplements were provided differently than having the own salary schedule that we used to have before the change in the law. And I think that we need to make that correction and right that wrong, now that we realize what's going on, and now that, honestly, we're moving away from having 11-month employees, because we've got our former DPSs. They were 11-month employees, and then 2 years ago they moved to 10 plus 10. So on paper, it looks like they're only missing one paycheck because of the lack of the other 10 days. But the reality is they're missing far more than that, because on those 10 additional days, they're not earning everything that they're earning during the 10 months of their contract year. So we've got to do better, and because our people are working really, really hard, and they deserve to earn what they are allotted to earn. And then that's it for 26, with the exception of, yeah, if you
Yeah, I saw
notice, we
that.
took those off.
Yep, I did, I saw that.
And then we have Appendix G, really we just changed the date, because they're all hourly rates, so we'll give you that.
Okay.
And then Matt, did you wanna add anything else to the conversation about, salaries?
Do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I think we need to.
Yeah.
I've got, we did this last year, where I've got it all broken down into pieces and the pot of money, if you will.
This is what we were talking about yesterday, kind of, yeah.
There's one more.
So, I'll wait for it to get done. I don't wanna jump ahead. Alright, so the top table, if you will, was the initial offer, the initial proposal from View. It had the 4% supplement. The bereavement calculations, it's the 8,000 hours, and then it's, I should have put the formulas here, it's like 70%.
Yep.
For View Instructional. Don't quote me on the 70%, but it's not 100.
Approximately.
Yes. Retention, you can, that's the cost of retention with those proposals. Maternity, again, the original increase was 45 days. Again, I think an 80% here from sharing, because I believe that was all the View unit, both the two units. Advanced degree, the way I costed out advanced degree is I looked at Orange and I looked at Hillsborough and Polk, and their advanced degree costs went up 20%. And so I looked at our advanced degree costs going up 20%. That's where I did that costing out of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Salaries, the 4% COLA, that's 10 million. And then the 206 schedule, I have written there need to cost out. It's about $300 a person. So I don't know how many people that is. And the way I get,
Per day.
no, because it's $4.50 an hour, and they're working 70 hours. So, yeah, so like I said, 300, I don't know, 350, I don't know, somewhere around that per person, but I don't know the number of people that are 10 plus 10s. So I don't know what that cost is. The second table here was VCS's counter. If you notice in both tables, I did not include TSA. TSA is a fixed amount, I know what that amount is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't include it either. And then the bottom table is the new counter from View, removing the supplement 4%, decreasing bereavement down to 2 days, retention staying the same, maternity decreasing that down to 20 days, advanced degree, I just cut it in half. Actually, I didn't cut it in, yeah, I cut it in half. I again, have no idea how to calculate that exactly. It's an approximate. The salaries, COLA still 4%. The 206 schedule, again, need to cost that out, but I think it's around $350 a person. And then the first year holding those 180 at the base pay of 49 to 1, not doing a 4% raise saves 132,000.
So you're talking about just the ones that are currently sitting there as brand new teachers?
Correct. And that's just based off of continuous contract service date, so I don't,
Okay.
you know, that 180 might be different. But that's kind of the differences there.
Okay.
And so I know last time we talked about, or a couple times ago, we talked about a pot of money, and so I tried to break it down to what are the individual pieces and where these costs come from.
Okay. That helps.
So we wanted to demonstrate to you that we heard what you were saying. We hope that you hear what we're saying and recognize the movement here, because we want to reach an agreement as quickly as we can. But, you know, there are certain things that we have to consider. So at this point, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, I want to present 9.
Okay.
And then if we can caucus after that?
Yep.
Would that be fair? You were counting the-
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so, what you're gonna see on the front page is we took it back to the original language, and I wanna explain why. I know you had asked about the, second year of NTA. I will tell you, one of the things that we found and why we implemented that program the way we did is that they have the support in year 1. What we were hearing from new teachers as well as from administrators, they really needed that support in year 2 as well. So that's why we put that in there, because first year you've got somebody there beside you being that mentor holding your hand. You get to year 2 and it's like, here you go, it's all yours. And so we just want to make sure, because data shows that in those first 3 years, and you know this, you've been around as long as I have, people make the decision whether they're going to stick with the profession or not. It usually happens in those first, 3-5 years. So we took that part back. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Can you see it?
No, can I see it? Thank you, you've got my notes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then, we did accept the meet the teacher, because yes, that's something we know, bless you. That's something we know that is an expectation and should be in the language. Let's see.
So in between, we had asked for, the virtual planning days.
Correct, we're reverting back to ours on that, but I'll explain why here in just a second, okay? And so then that should take us down to, let's see. Yeah, itinerant, so, we're taking all of that out because we're going back to where we had placed it in, and I'm gonna explain why here in just a second, okay? The date of open house, we agree, that should be communicated, everybody should know that by the end of pre-planning, so we've accepted that piece. as a group, we still have some concerns about it being on one evening because, you know, they need to have the flexibility to do it as they see fit. Now, I don't disagree with you when you say you always ask who has to be there. I feel like if you're gonna do it over 2 nights, then Group A is there on night 1, Group B is there on night 2, and no one would be expected to double up other than administration. So if we wanna work towards something like that, I'm not opposed to that. And, in talking with some of our secondary principals, and I know, Josh wasn't here that night, but in speaking with Tucker, he said it is very difficult at the secondary level to get open house done in an hour and a half. He said because of the fact that you want to get the kids to see all 7 teachers, they have to have time to transition in between the classes. And even if you're doing 7 to 8 minutes in each one, it is very difficult, especially on larger campuses, to be able to do it. So that was the rationale behind that. Let me go down. Sorry, I'm just old school. Okay, so then, H, we are willing to do the remote work, but the difference between the language that we're proposing and what you had proposed is we've gotta have something in return. I mean, if we're going to allow teachers to work from home, and you can see on there, we're not saying that there have to be meetings on that day, anything like that. It is basically your 7.5 hours to work at your house, do whatever it is that you need to do to prepare for the new 9 weeks, the new semester, whatever, you know, whatever the day is. But we've gotta be able to have those meetings and do the things that we still need to get done just before the week, you know, during those blackout days. So, again, we're not opposed to the idea, we just need to make sure that, that there's something that the principal's getting in return.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So there are 3 teacher duty days prior to the end of the school year, and
Mhm.
you've only identified 2 of them to be eligible for this.
Correct, because, and the reason we haven't put the 3rd one in, not to say we're not open to the discussion about it. I've let you again, you okay?
Yeah, allergies.
Okay, I'm
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Is because we're coming off of a 2-week break. That was more the reason we felt like, you know, teachers would want to be in their classroom, would want to be there getting ready, especially those at secondary, getting ready for the start of the 2nd semester.
So then the district would select the 2 days that would be eligible for remote
First and
work.
3rd is what we were thinking. First 9 weeks, 3rd 9 weeks, and then second 9 weeks, or into the 1st semester, would be on site simply because we need to regroup, and then of course end of the year, because that's when you're turning everything in, that's when you're, you know, closing out things. So, but again, open to conversation, but we're just trying to, you know, provide some rationale as to why we thought about that. And then again, the comp time, that is something that is a very slippery slope that I'm not sure we're ready on a full scale to commit to, simply because it is a tracking nightmare. The language isn't clear in terms of, like, is there a limit to, can they do it for 1 club? Or is it, if I decide I wanna sponsor 3 clubs, I get 3 different sets of comp time? And where's their accountability? That's the other piece, is that, you know, I'm a principal, Matt's my bud. Hey, you know what? You're gonna have the chess club, and here, you're gonna do it for comp time. But Matt doesn't have the chess club. I know
Well,
you did.
but-
That's why I use that as my example.
Well, that's kind of concerning because that's about trust.
No, and I
Trusting our
understand that.
people,
I
trusting
understand
our
that.
administrators to manage that correctly.
No, I understand, but I can tell you, having been in payroll for the last 5 years, comp time is not something that is easily managed for the small group that we have that has it right now. We have difficulty with that.
So you and I both know that this animal has existed predominantly at the district level for instructional employees who aren't in a brick and mortar school. So what is the expectation for the workload if we're not able to agree on something like this? I mean, because our employees have contractual start and stop times. But we often know that there have been conversations in the past about working on projects. I think audits come up frequently. It's, a lot of it is in the ESE world, we'll just put it out there,
Mhm.
honestly.
Mhm.
You know, work on this and we'll give you comp time, or somebody made up something called a work exchange day, which
That
doesn't
was-
exist in our unit.
But it did, I can tell you it did.
It's not in here.
Not in here now, but it did years ago, and
Okay.
that has continued. I think it has been a practice that happened back in the late nineties, early 2000s, and it has just carried.
It's not in the contract.
I don't disagree.
So
but-
it doesn't exist, and so, I guess the expectation is for those folks is that you go home when you're supposed to go home. I mean, this was a mechanism to try to be mutually beneficial.
And I'm
to-
not saying that I'm opposed to having conversations about certain personnel, but I don't think it can be a blanket, everybody, every instructional person this can apply to.
I know you wanna say something, I have one last question. So where would you, differentiate, like
I
where
could
would?
see it being with the district staff. I could see it being someplace where you're not talking about an entire school that could possibly qualify for it. I'm not opposed to having some conversation about kind of how we have, and I don't want to use the phrase singled out, but that's just the best way to do it. We have that group, our SLPs, our clinicians and so forth in that world, that we know that their job does sometimes require, due to scheduling things, to have to adjust in the morning or adjust in the evening, or in your case, talking about the audits, be there on a Saturday or whatever the case may be. I'm not opposed to that, but I just feel like we need to, maybe start small and then look at expanding. That's all.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and I just would like to recognize that our classroom teachers are also, I mean, everybody is working beyond their contractual day. This was, again, a message to, a method to write some of that, if available. Certainly, we would prefer that everybody who's doing a club gets paid, but we know that
Correct.
the district isn't able to do that. Comp time for clubs benefits kids too. And so, that was why we put out there, but go ahead, Matt, if you wanted to.
Yeah, I hear your language of starting small and looking at specific groups, so I'm wondering if this could be something that we put in with a sunset clause or a trial type clause of saying, hey, for year 25, 26 or year 25 through 27, we look at district staff and high schools, 2 club for comps, and an elementary school 1 club for comp, or something that where we have some restrictions, to your point of, okay, we're gonna let Mainland High School try us out with 2 people, we're gonna see how it works, we're gonna let Creekside Middle start with 2 people, I don't know where she's principal at.
She's a
Manatee Cove, try it out with 1 club, they wanna start a chess club, I know Campbell just started a chess club. So we kind of put some restrictions of, it's a sunset, or it's a trial method. A pilot, that's the word I'm looking for.
I'm not opposed to that.
A pilot program.
Absolutely, and if we could talk about that, and we would have some very, very tight restrictions, because what worries me, and I'm just gonna put this out there, is when you get into comp time, whether you are an exempt employee or not, there are wage and labor things that we have to make sure we follow. So I just wanna make sure that whatever we put in, that we are in compliance with what we need to with wage and labor, that's all.
Well, just as an aside, the language that we presented here really was crafted based on language that they have in Hillsborough, Marion, Seminole, Orange, and perhaps even Polk, because I reached out to the other local presidents and I asked, who has comp time? Brevard, as a matter of fact, Brevard has a very lengthy section in their instructional contract about comp, and that's where a lot of this came from. So it is being used by other Central Florida districts because, I guess, of a variety of reasons.
Okay.
So,
And like I said, I'm not opposed to, if we can tighten it up some, having further conversation about it, that's all.
okay. So we have presented everything that we have. You've presented what you have. It's 5:33.
So can we have like 30 minutes?
Of course.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that would put us just a little after 6.
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, we have, would you like to use
Can I have the kitchen?
other room,
Can I
yes,
have the kitchen?
certainly.
Okay, yeah. And Beth, if we have anything we need to print, just send to you or to Matt or to who?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna grab something, they wrote. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem, thank you. Jerry, let me know when you're ready. We're good? Okay. Elizabeth? Bless you. All right, you ready? Okay. All right, so what we have passed across is Article 22, the leave provision. As you can see in looking, at this point in time, we still don't feel like maternity or paternity leave is something that we can do. However, if you flip all the way to the very, very back, front of the very last page, M with the bereavement leave, we have come up with some language that we would like to propose. So for the purpose of this policy, the definition of immediately, and Dolly, I just noticed something, and I know it was because we were trying to get finished.
Needs to be black.
That needs to be black. The parties recognize the need. We're accepting that part. We're accepting the 2 days. So we can, if we end up TAing, we'll get a correct copy. As I was saying, we will accept that language about the 2 days. For the purpose of this policy, though, here's where we want to make a change, and this makes it, you'll understand here in just a minute why we're going this direction. For the purpose of this policy, the definition of immediate family members is as follows: a spouse, a sibling, a child, a parent-in-law, a grandparent-in-law, domestic partner, or other member of the employee's immediate household. And I'd like for Andrew to explain why we went that direction.
Absolutely. So we analyzed some language from other districts, and I know that it'd be easy to look at this and think, why are you, this seems like very similar language. One thing we wanted to encapsulate here as we were looking at it is we recognize that for the purpose of people's households look different to everyone, right? So you may have stepchildren, you may actually have taken in a family member who's now your child for all intents and purposes. And so essentially what we've done is we've used the language of immediate family member, you've got the list, and then, or other member of the employee's immediate household. So we felt like that actually encapsulated better the situation that some people may find themselves in, where instead of trying to list every single person that you could have in a household, you're now looking at, if you have a scenario where you have someone in your household, you know, for that purpose, who is a member of your family, then you can take that leave. So it is actually a slightly more encompassing definition in terms of what your household looks like.
I'm going to ask a clarifying question. So I notice we had in our list step-parent, and then step-parent is not listed in what you have here, but would a step-parent for an adult be considered part of the immediate household? Because certainly we could understand that a step-parent's passing would be pretty impactful.
I would think that if we are defining it as an immediate household member with parent in there, then likely step-parent would fall under that definition. In that, you know, and I say this all the time, a lot of times step-parents fill that role just the same as a regular parent, right? So in the same way that if you have a stepchild in your house and they are your child, and that's your immediate household, I think that would actually fall under the definition, yes.
Because we're talking about adults, and so when you say immediate household, if you're considering the employee as the matriarch or patriarch, then yes, that would make sense. But just because I don't live with my step-parents because I'm 57, doesn't mean that I would not be impacted by their passing. So if we could make that clarification, and would you be opposed to listing step-parent specifically? Because I would hate to not.
No, that would be fine.
That'd be
Okay.
easy to add.
Okay, since we have to amend it anyway to
Yep.
turn some things, but.
Yep, and then, just to close that out, we were, and then we added employee must provide proof of death, and then we accepted all of, everything after that, proof of death within 30 days after bereavement leave is taken. And then down in the next paragraph, we accepted everything, we had the word employees, which we accepted, and then we added, who provide the required proof of death within 30 days will not accrue a negative leave. So that's just to assure us that we get the documentation we need. Again, I go back to, and we've mentioned this word earlier, we get audited. And if we have that in policy or in a practice that is what that is, then we would need to have that for an auditor.
Okay, this looks great. I think we'll clean it up, pass it back to you with the step parent, and I think we're good on this one.
Okay.
Okay, do you have another one?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, do you want me to go ahead and do 18, since we have it? I mean, we can. It's a pretty short one. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do 18, because we have it since the others are still printing. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Is this another one where we need black on here?
No, actually, we need to, I think we left a word out. So on this is the article about the classroom control. We left, yeah, that should have, it should have been stricken through. We aren't opposed to it being like shared, but that discipline matrix isn't, something that, it is a living, breathing document, and it is to be used at the, thank you, Matt, at the, it's based on the administrator. Like, this is guidance, it is not set in stone, and so the concern with sharing it, and I can have one of the principals explain kind of what your concern was with sharing it.
Yeah, so the discipline matrix is a guideline for us to follow, but as we all know, when we have guidelines, there are always exceptions to every rule. So I guess what our fear is that it would be in black and white, and so for certain situations that we may want to have a little bit of more leniency than others, just because of the situation itself. Every incident is different. We would want to be able to have that latitude. It is a guide. It is not a policy where we have to follow it exactly. And there are certain situations where we do confer with our peers, with the district, to handle situations appropriately. And so we just don't want it to become, you know, teachers are also parents, you know what I mean? So we don't want it to be like it's this black and white thing where we have to stick to, and depending upon different situations. So I think that's, I mean, we can discuss with the faculty the matrix and what, you know, and show them, you know, what it provides, but actually giving them a copy of that when it's something that's more of a guide for us to use, I don't think that that would be in our best interest to do that.
And one of the other things too is it kind of takes their autonomy away from being able to choose the best path for that child.
So the reason that it was put into the proposal is because teachers are wanting to know where the lines are. They're wanting to understand where the parameters are. And there's been a lot of work recently done with the Student Code of Conduct, which is intentional to provide clarification. And this was seeking some additional clarification as well. So because it is part of the work that is done in the public school system, though, it's also a public record though, right? It could be requested through the channels of a public records request, couldn't it?
I would assume so, yes. I can't, let's do this. The lawyer response to everything is it depends, but I can't think of an exception at this time, no.
And so not that I'm suggesting that we put in over 4,000 public records requests to obtain a copy of the discipline matrix. My point that I'm trying to get to is that if the public wants to see it, we have to make it available because we're a public entity. So I think if we were willing to make it available to instructional personnel and support too, because support are getting, you know, hit, bit, kicked, scratched, all the things, and we have conversations around, you know, educating our teachers and staff about these are the options that are available to us, understanding that every situation is unique, just like every child in the classroom is diverse and there are different pathways to academic excellence. but we need to be able to, I think, reveal all the tools that we have in the toolbox. And I wouldn't wanna shroud something that's available publicly anyway. That's just my thoughts there, but I'd like
Yeah.
to see what else you have
Yeah,
here.
we're good with, the striking of the focus, because as you said, that's kind of outdated. And absolutely agree that the teacher shall be notified when referrals are merged or deleted.
Okay?
On the back, under the, again, I'm gonna defer to our two administrators to talk about the responding within 5 minutes and about the level 2 code of conduct.
I mean.
You don't wanna.
Go ahead, you go.
She's on a roll.
I'll tell, it's my turn. So, the thing is that it is, so we try, when we get an alert on a Centegix, it's everybody full go. You get it on your phone, you get it Guardian, there's communications on the radio, so on and so forth. The one thing that where it becomes difficult is you could have 3 different incidences going off at the same time, depending. So the one thing is that we are, as administration, we're getting there. We take safety seriously. We take the safety of our teachers seriously. We take the safety of our students seriously. The thing is, we're trying to get there as fast as we can. The one thing is that we don't want to do, though, and I would say it's hard, is to pigeonhole ourselves to where we've got to be there in X amount of time, because we're all making it to, with all the staff, in a reasonable amount of time with the best due diligence we can.
So recognizing, I get it, and when I presented this, I said it was a jumping off point for a conversation. Because what we're finding, even in 5 weeks in, there are some circumstances where folks are calling for help and it is a significant delay in getting a response. So we're trying to figure out how to correct that, and this was a starting point. So I don't know if you have a suggestion that we can work on to make that better. I don't know, and it's
I will say
understandable, you're
this,
putting out a lot of fires, I get it.
I'll say this, because our goals are number 1, safety and security, and 2 is to increase our academic instruction in the classroom. I think that the one thing is that, and I don't have the answer flat out right now, but what I can tell you is that I can tell you that administration, that our goal is to get there ASAP, as quickly as possible, with every resource that's available that we can get there.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
Because I don't know, I've been out of the school for 8 years now. So back in the day, there used to be a response flow chart. If a call came in, it went to this person. If this person was busy, it went to the next person, and on down the line. Is that still something that is practiced in our schools?
Inside, I can tell you at Creekside, I can tell you at our school that we have internal protocols and processes in place. That if this person can't get there, then it jumps off to this person. And this person is in charge of the communication point. I can't speak for each individual school, but I know, knowing my colleagues, the way I know my colleagues, is that they're very process-oriented people, and we are pushed by our superintendent and our directors to be process-oriented.
Do you know, Mr. Cash, if, oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add to what he was saying, because, for example, today, it was myself and my dean on campus, and we had a child who had a seizure, right? And simultaneously, other calls are happening, but that takes precedence. And so that's not just an anomaly, right? That happens where we have to prioritize the safety of students, where someone's life, right, may be. So that's my issue with this, is that we don't always have all of our staff available on the same day. You know, I have principal meetings, my AP has AP meetings, so sometimes that level of support looks different on our campus as far as how many administrators. You just said you're gonna be the only administrator when tomorrow, or whatever day you're, because of that situation. And so it's just kind of hard for us to, we want to, trust me, I wear sneakers, I put on my dress, my sneakers, whatever, we go. And we're running around to support everyone. Like, that's just how we're wired. to be there, but we do obviously have to kind of prioritize some of those situations. But just like he said, and having that triage of, you have other individuals who are willing to jump in and help, we do have things in place to where we have others who can also help to respond to situations. So I'm not sure how it is at every single school, but that's how we operate at Vanity.
All right, thank you for that. I think that we can, we'll noodle on that.
Okay. And then, again, on the next paragraph about the removal of the student for, a certain amount of time, do you all wanna touch on that? Or I feel like you kinda hit that too.
Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit, though, about the return? Because that's kind of what this was about the return and readmittance to the classroom. Again, in the section below, it talks about the designee will communicate preferably in writing. We had asked that the communication be in writing, and with the focus system referral now, I mean, it seems a little different than what when we wrote referrals,
On
there
the
were
paper,
the
yeah.
multiple forms, goldenrod, rose colored, whatever. And we would get our goldenrod copy in our mailbox, even if we got it at the end of the day. And that was writing confirmation of what happened as a result of the referral. But again, when we've got students that are returned to the cohort and there's no communication, that's where the problem that's where it breaks down, because we don't know what's happened. And there is a reoccurring statement that we hear primarily at elementary, but not always. Students go up to the front office, and I know, Ms. Douglas, it's not happening with you, but I know that, they'll tell me students go up to the front office for discipline, they come back with a candy bar, and they're smiling and chuckling, and that is something that we hear all the time. We do know that it happens, or a bag of chips, or what have you, so it's a reward, actually, for some students that get to go up there, because that's the behavior they're demonstrating, they know what they're going to get. So we wanna kinda figure out how we can put some guardrails around that.
I could tell you this, I'll give you an example. Today, I had my administrative team meeting today. We do weekly case studies, so I have one grade house bring to me, and they're assigned. I said, we wanna reflect on one referral that involves these things, because I know what's going on referral-wise. And then what we do is, we literally open it up, we do a case study, and we talk about it. We talk about, okay, let's talk about the referral. Let's talk about from beginning to end. Let's talk about the reentry of the student. Let's talk about what supports we're giving there. Did we pair the teaching with the consequence? We talk those. Those things have to take place, and teams need to be talking about that, because I know it helps my team out, because what it does, it puts us more in sync together to where we're one unit, instead of saying, this AP does it this way, that AP does it that way, that AP does it that way.
And I think that's kind of where we're trying to get to, is where we're all communicating about that child who obviously was in crisis, and now what has happened to either de-escalate or work to do a behavior change so they can be readmitted into the learning environment. So that's where, I think we're trying to get to the same point.
Yeah.
But we'll
Okay.
keep working on that.
All right, so I think that was it in that article. And so the last one we want to send across tonight, just because we know we've got, we've kind of gone over our allotted time, but want you all to have time to chew on this one, is the compensation, because I think at the end of the day, we know that
We gotta get there.
takes precedence over everything else. So, before I dive into the language on the article, and we start moving through it, I think the one thing we can agree upon is that and even Matt has said it as well sitting here tonight, that we're in agreement that TSIA is what it is. Neither side has proposed making any changes or doing anything to the TSIA. So, in order to meet that deadline, would you be willing to deal with that separately to give us more time if we need it to go through additional compensation?
I'd like to go through this
Okay.
first, and then we'll let you know.
Okay, so, with the advanced degree, we bounced this one back and forth, and, our big thing is, and I believe he's no longer with us this evening. I think he had to leave, Dr. Evans. He brought up a situation like when he was at the college level, and, you know, they had all the same type of issues with being paid additional funding for advanced degrees, and he said, you know, the college where he worked, he said they would make sure that the advanced degree was in an area where the person was teaching. And, you know, I know that we have the flexibility to add now, but we just don't feel like with what we have to offer that that's where we need to put the money. So right now, we're going to refuse that language, but as we go through, again, I'll reiterate some of the reasons why. The 206, again, we don't want to take the flexibility away from the school and the individual on those days, but I have something to propose for that later on. When we're talking about number 3, where we were discussing the case, or the students in a classroom, I think the one thing that everybody forgets, and I think we mentioned it the first time this came across, is that everything now is done on average. It is no longer, we look at a single classroom. I mean, the ultimate goal would be to have 18, 22, 25 in all the classrooms. But the state gives us the flexibility because they know that that is unobtainable, especially with the lack of people going into education. You and I have had these discussions before, and so there's no way, because if you look at our classrooms right now, we know we have classes that are over 18. We know that we have classes that are over 22. But when you take in the ESE classes that have 3 or 6 or 9 or whatever they may be, and you factor that in, it does bring that average down to where it needs to be.
So to that point, we understand the class size average. We understand that, and we also understand that last year the legislature removed any penalty for any violation, even though the voters have voted overwhelmingly that that's what they wanted. But through the years, the law has really withered down to be nothing. But the class size average, first of all, let me ask, if we were to request to know what those average numbers are for each school, would that be able to be provided?
I don't see an issue with that. I would have to go and double check as to whether or not I can release it before we turn it into the state, because, you know, that's a one-day thing that they look at the last day of FTE.
Right, well, we could wait, I mean,
Yeah.
we wouldn't wait indefinitely, but so to your point, I'd like to kind of know what the average is at Campbell Middle School or Palm Terrace or
I can
whatever.
tell you as of today, because I had an email with the SIS team about this earlier today. As of today, with the extra units that we gave out, with some of the, especially in elementary, because that's where we saw it, we have 0 schools that are outside of the class size average.
Okay, well, I'd still like to be able to look and see where some of them are sitting, because what we don't take into consideration is the non-core and the special area, for example, because we know that these numbers don't apply to them. So I know that we have numbers in some of our special or our non-core and secondary that are absolutely dangerous. Elementary special area, we have, you know, at times almost 40 children in an art room, or some astronomical number in the choir room, or music they call it, right? So I think that we have, what I know is that there is one set of standards for core or rostered, what you would call, I don't even know what you call them in the elementary.
Yeah, no, we get what you're
Right,
saying.
but we've got other instructional personnel who are absolutely managing volumes of students that are unattainable. And then when you add on top of that, putting in the ed mod accommodations that come with all of those additional children that we are servicing in our non-core and special area classes, the workload is, there's no way to get it done in a 7.5-hour day, or probably even a 10-hour day. So we're just, because we know that they get it done, because we're for one reason or another, they're trying to just cover that spread, and we want to honor that work. So if we can't get the numbers down, we're asking for, quite honestly, it's the same value of a supplement that we had in the contract back in 2016. So
Yeah,
we
I
didn't even
remember.
increase it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we gotta consider what's happening for all personnel.
Okay. All right, so I want to skip over to number 6. So we debated this one back and forth for a little bit on the retention supplement. And I'll tell you that it's not something that we can do right now. Simply because we are, what are we in? September, we're 2.5 months into a new system. So I could not sit here and tell you in good faith that we could figure out how to do it. However, what I am willing to do, now that we are in this new system, when we pay the retention supplement, I am willing to do it on a separate run so that it is not lumped in with any other check.
Okay, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so that, you know, we can talk about a date and a time and all that kind of stuff, you know, as we do anytime we pay that. But I feel like that would be something we could offer as a, you know, as a compromise.
Okay.
Again, we left the values the same, and I'll explain that here in a second why. So I know when we met last time, one of the things that we talked about is that for the COLA, the best we can do is a 1.5% based on the leeway that we were given. So we went back, we had further discussion, and something additional that we can do is that for the 25-26 school year, all instructional employees can receive a one-time, non-reoccurring 1% bonus. And again, that would be something that would be paid separate from the regular paycheck. Now, that 1.5% does not have to be in the COLA. That does, as I mentioned last time, that's a pot of money that we said was roughly $3 million. And if you decide that you want to go over here and use part of it for this, I don't care. It doesn't matter to us, because at the end of the day, we want to get that money into instructional pockets. Okay? Let's see.
I think that was it.
Nope. I got one more for you. Then, again, if the focus, you know, we can't do everything at one time. So we're going to stick with the original proposals for the hourly $25 per hour and the things on that schedule. However, one thing that we talked about is that without going to a 206-day schedule, and I know I'm taking on something that I think Michelle wanted to smack me for agreeing to, but I feel like what you said made sense about those people who work the 10-10s. They do. The work that they're doing is no different than they do during the 196 day. However, what I don't want to give up is the flexibility for them to work with their administration to determine if the 5 days, if they do 5 days before, 5 days after, 3 days, 7 days, whatever works for that site. But what we will do is that for those 10 days, they will receive their daily rate of pay as well as the advanced degree and the job role difference that Matt was talking about. So they're still getting it, it's just, we're not taking the flexibility of when to work those days away from the group.
So what this actually says, and thank you for hearing what I said. So how is what you've typed here, and it would have been, okay, how is what you typed there different than what we had in the paragraph with base salary?
Because it's not, we cannot include that as part of the base salary, because God forbid, and I know we've talked about catastrophic ideas and all that kind of stuff sitting here, but if at any point in time we remove advanced degrees from the contract, or we remove the job supplements because something else comes around, we don't want that included in the language, because at the end of the day, the base salary that everything is based on is truly the salary. It's not all of the additional things that we have put in. Do you want to add anything to that? Okay.
Okay, so couple thoughts here. So if for some reason job stipends were no longer provided, the language would be irrelevant and we would have to reconvene to address it. That would be impact bargaining. We would have to address it.
No, I understand that, but
we would deal with it at the time. Additionally, because of a law change, we are now providing advanced degrees as a supplement, whereas for many, many
It
years,
was in the salary.
it was in the base salary,
Right.
as is currently for anyone, quite honestly, I guess, that has them, that's outside of instructional, because the laws only apply to instructional personnel. So your administrators are getting there,
No, mine's not part of my base salary.
your master's isn't?
I have a specialist degree and no,
Mhm.
it's not.
Okay.
Nope, I get a $2,000 supplement just like they get whatever their value is.
So why is your because your master's is required for
For
your
my job,
position?
correct.
So is there any kind of, I don't know, let's think about this.
Okay, but.
Because we do have job roles in the unit that require advanced degrees.
Mhm.
School counselors, SLPs, our DPS require them. I think they do. Robin?
I think job description says, preferred a master's.
I think it
Okay,
does too.
all right, so,
Yeah,
all
I
right,
think it does
we'll
too.
think about that too.
Okay.
Okay.
And then.
so this was, okay, I got it.
Yep, and then that was it. So, back to my original question. Would you be willing to discuss the TSIA separately so that we can meet our October 1st deadline and do everything that we need to do for that?
So I need
Separately.
to caucus with our bargaining unit to see if they're willing to, what they're willing to do. I don't make the decisions for, believe it or not, I don't make all the decisions for our union. We are member driven. So I would need to have a conversation with them. We do have another meeting scheduled. So my hope is that we can get it all done by then. But, you've given us a lot here that we need to go back and consider. I can't tell you at this moment in time that we're able to consider that right now.
So you do realize, I believe we have our next meeting scheduled on the 30th.
I do.
Okay, because if we have to meet that October 1st deadline.
That's the next day.
It is, but there, it's not something, and I'm gonna defer to Michelle because she's the one that has to do it. It is not something that can be done overnight. So I just want you to know that.
Why can't it be done overnight? If we reach an agreement, if we reach a TA, even if we reach a TA just on 26, wouldn't that would satisfy the requirement because we've
But-
met it before October 1st?
But we have to, there's things we have to submit, is what I'm saying. There's a whole process that we have to go through to submit it. So I just want you to be aware that that's cutting it close is all I'm asking, to consider that separately.
So let's just play that out, right? So if we if we reach an agreement on the 30th, because we talk about a pot of money. And so you did make a statement here, and I wrote it down, and I wanna refer back to it. The leeway that you've been given. So what if that leeway changes based on the desire to meet somewhere closer to the middle than we currently are right now, and we have an opportunity to reach an agreement by the 30th? So if we reach the agreement on the 30th, then we've satisfied the deadline and all is well. If we don't reach the agreement by the 30th, I fully anticipate the district will declare impasse. Let's just put it out there. I mean, it's a reasonable conversation to have, and then we'll go about what we have to do. But we're not giving up, and we don't want to give up having, putting in the work to get to that agreement. We
And-
still have one more formal meeting
And
to
we're
do
not
it.
saying that we are either. I'm willing to bargain till December if you want to on this.
No, we don't
I
wanna do
want-
that, but-
But I'm just saying, we've offered multiple meetings, we've offered to meet through the day, we offered to meet through the summer. My thing is, I wanna hit that October 1st deadline with the TSIA, and then we can talk about all the rest of this stuff as long as you want.
So here's the thing, we have looked at the TSIA, Matt, I need you to engage in this. We've talked about the TSIA, but if we bifurcate that out and all we focus on is the TSIA, that leaves out every member of the bargaining unit with less than 2 years' experience. They're getting 0. How do we justify that? How do we explain that to how many have we hired? 400, 500 brand new folks?
180.
We had over 200 at the mainland NTA.
We still have about between 180 and 200, Tiffany and I looked at the numbers earlier today.
Okay. and there's 138 job postings that I looked at today on the website, so,
I think the bigger thing is the year two folk, there's 400 and 300 and some.
If they have 2 years in, yeah,
The
yeah, you're talking
ones
about
who
who are
started
currently in
last
year 2.
They're in year two, there's, that number is 3 or 4.
point I'm trying to make is Article 26 is an article. Let's get it all done. Let's work together to get it all done, and then we move on to finishing up what's left.
And that's what we want to do, and I'll be honest, I'd like to get the TSIA set done so I can get that paid. I want to get that money in their pockets, and then we worry about everything else.
Let me,
And then I'll let you speak.
let me ask, so the TSIA is not something that you created.
Neither one of us did.
The number is not what you sent down, but I don't wanna speak for everybody that we represent, but I can tell you this, $20 extra in my paycheck isn't going to make enough of a difference to me as an individual to not do a complete and full job here. And it's not worth it to me as an individual to say, I'm gonna agree to the TSIA and then, the rest will happen when it happens. Let's get it all done in one fell swoop. Let's prioritize the work. Let's have conversation about what is reasonable, the leeway that's reasonable versus what's been given, and see where we can end up. I don't know how we agree to something that leaves a group of people out. We can't do that.
But we're not the ones leaving them out. And that's what I want you to,
But
I
as
want to
the
make that
employer-
clear. As the employer, we are not leaving them out. We are following what the statute says. That is not me, that's not you, and it's not their fault. Because this time last year, we were having the exact same conversation and everybody was included.
But this time last year, we were actually talking about a more robust package than what we're talking about now. When we put the proposal across the table this time, we carved some things, we dialed some things back, trying to meet in the middle. And I don't see where, I don't see that same meeting in the middle effort necessarily. I mean, let's talk about retention.
A 1% bonus isn't meeting in the middle? That is
1%
additional
bonus.
funds.
So what would the average payout be for a 1% bonus?
I would have to look.
500,
What would it be? About
Starting teacher pay would be $500.
About
$500. One-time non-reoccurring bonus.
That's better than zero.
Non-pensionable.
But okay, and I don't wanna get into an argument necessarily, but the work that our instructional personnel are doing has resulted in some very great outcomes. And a 1% non-reoccurring bonus on top of a 1.5% salary increase offer doesn't demonstrate, on top of $19 a paycheck.
Doesn't matter, it's still
For
dollars.
some people, not all people, it just doesn't demonstrate the worth of the work that's been done to move our district to a place where we are recognized for being an A after 15 years. I really believe that another conversation needs to take place about priorities with, okay, Mr. Cash, you wanna say something?
Yeah, I would say just a couple of things if I could. So I want to be fully transparent, and I appreciate, Matt, the last time we talked, when I brought up the $17.6 million that are going to our teachers in the other areas that we've done a lot of good work with longevity and retention, advanced degrees, and salary supplements. If you took that $17.6 million and put it into, we're not proposing this, we're saying if you did, if we wanted to discuss this, and get rid of that and put it back into instructional bargaining, it'd be an average of about a 7% increase in salary for all teachers, for all of our teachers.
I think that's
So
not true.
it would be. So that's one thing to consider looking at if we're trying to get money into everybody's pockets equally, because this doesn't impact all of our teachers the way this particular formula works. Depends on whether they have an advanced degree, it depends on how long they've been here. So there is money there that's a reoccurring cost of about $17 million that we would be open to having that conversation. In addition, when you look at the compensation package that was put forward tonight with the 1.5 COLA, the 0.54 TSIA, and the 1% bonus, that's a 3% compensation for this year. That is above surrounding districts. Brevard settled for 2% for 3 years. Seminole settled for 2.3 for only their highly effective, but their other teachers are at 1.3 or 1.8, something to that effect. And Osceola did basically a 2%, they call it a retention, what do they call it? Retention, and then a supplement, and then the TSIA. So really, we are trying to show our employees that we want to value you, but I don't want to mislead anybody. We can't stick our head in the sand and not realize that in the last 2 years, we've lost 2,500 students in declining enrollment, and that's a $20 million shortfall. Even with that $20 million lost revenue, we're still wanting to increase pay for our employees. That's what we're trying to say tonight. And in being transparent and meeting in the middle, I don't want to mislead anybody. This is where we are.
So to your point, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, you made a statement about taking that 17 million that people are earning in other forms
Other ways,
of
yes.
compensation.
Correct.
And redistributing it into salary. That's no net gain. That's a flat. That stays flat. That's when we don't add anything to the retention supplement, when we don't put new money in, that's flat. No one is earning
But
any
it would be
extra.
dispersed differently to employees. So
So
all
you would
employees,
negatively
including your
impact
first
some.
year and your second year teachers that we talked about a little bit ago, would be included in that particular way we could look at it.
One more point that I'd like to make before, I know, Matt, you want to say a lot of things. When you talk about the salary proposals in the surrounding districts, your numbers are accurate. I'll give you that, based on my conversations with those presidents. But what you're not including in the conversation is the fact that Osceola got a bunch of money on their medical insurance. They got relief from their premium cost. We didn't talk about Orange County getting 4.01%. We didn't talk about some of those ancillary things that, to your point, are included in what we're providing, but you're not referencing those as their total package.
So may I, if I may, last year we put about $4 million into health insurance. We increased the subsidy to $605 from $585, and that's about a $4 million reoccurring cost that we did for our employees last year. So we did look at that last year.
Go ahead.
I just wanted, there's two things. One, we have the settling, I don't know, I can't really read it from over here, but it's got the numbers and stuff up there too for the surrounding districts. So everything that you were saying is on the screen and what she was saying. I hear you about the taking the retention and advanced degree and all that stuff and being able to disperse it differently. My concern is one of the reasons why we created that is because of compression and because of state laws. And so if we pull that money out, then now we're beholden to performance pay and state laws and how we distribute that money. And then we do end up like, I believe you mentioned Osceola, where highly effective gets X, grandfather gets
With
less
some
than
elements.
X,
Yeah,
and then effective gets even
Yeah.
less than that. And that would create more compression that we definitely do not want to do. So I think that to take that and put it into base salary, I don't think that I would like that, because again, it creates more compression. I don't know what the rules would be around that. Well, I mean, I do know the rules. It's our TSIA rules, and so I don't want to talk about doing that just a COLA in the TSIA, and I don't know that that's what we want to go with. And then to Liz's point, there's been no additional money put into that bucket. So if I'm getting a retention supplement, it's the same I got last year plus 1 year. It didn't increase, since that was why our part of our package did add money to that retention supplement is to, again, decompress. So that's what I just wanted to mention, is that I don't know that moving that to base salary is a good decision if we're trying to decompress salaries.
And in fairness, I think it's an opportunity for us to have outside of the box thinking because of the circumstances we're in. That's the only reason I brought it forward, because that money is reoccurring every year that the district is distributing to our employees in our instructional unit, at $17.6 million. And I want to say this again, we've got 3% on the table is what we have for this year. And that's where we are. And we don't want to declare impasse. But I don't see us coming up anything additional in compensation. I want to be transparent and tell you that we care about you and we want to be able to get money in our employees' pockets. But we had to go back and work to get that 1% bonus, and we had to look in areas that we could push things down the road, knowing that the state has told us, and I know you know this, Elizabeth, and everybody around the table knows this, public education is under attack in the state of Florida, and there is no new money coming. The state has made it pretty clear. Don't expect to get increases in funding next year or the year after, because we're not going to get it. And so we're in this particular moment in time that we're trying to recognize the great work that everybody's done and be able to put 3% in employees' pockets now, not wait till October 1st deadline of TSIA and go to impasse and drag this out even longer. But we were hoping tonight with that offer, with the bereavement, meeting you on bereavement, we understand the importance of that, and coming to 3%, that we could walk out of here with a deal and not have to meet again and find ourselves in impasse. That's not the goal.
So you're talking about 3%, but it's not really 3%. It is, because the 1% bonus is not reoccurring.
That is correct.
So when you say that it's 3%
For this year.
that's not really an accurate reflection of what the proposal is. We're still at the 1.5% for everyone in the bargaining unit, plus those who are eligible will get the 0.5% TSIA, and then a one-time non-reoccurring bonus of about $500 on average, we would say, or maybe, yeah, a little more than that. What is your wiggle room, like, what is the wiggle room on the COLA number? You talk about the pot, so right now your pot of reoccurring money is about, what did we say it was, Matt? 3.9? Your pot is 3.9. What's your ability to move that pot of reoccurring money even just slightly? Because a 1% increase to our bargaining unit is 2.6%. So what is your ability?
Yeah, the CFO's not here, Ms. Wittenberger is here, but I can tell you from the analysis that we've done that there isn't wiggle room, that where we are is where we are.
So the reason I ask you that is because last week, there was a clear, as confirmed by Mr. Cologne, 2% increase provided to non-bargaining. So that's school administrators and the non-bargaining personnel, that folks at your level, I don't know what you're getting yet because you're not included in that. But what is the likelihood that that the ability to offer a 2% across the board for everybody in the bargaining unit, and then the TSIA for those that are eligible? What's the likelihood of that?
It's not a likelihood. There isn't a likelihood of that.
Not even a 0.5% movement.
Where we are on that, and you know, I can confer to make sure that the numbers are right, although we have, is that what we're presenting tonight, and I understand the way you articulated, I said 3%, and it will be 3% for the majority of our employees. But I understand the nuances that you articulated, and I won't debate that with you. I understand what you're saying. But we're putting forth a good faith effort here in financial constraints, having to look out for the future of this district, knowing that we have declining enrollment, knowing that we have a loss in revenue, and we're trying to get it done.
So my question is, again, so you're at 3.9, an additional 0.5% would move it to, what? So that'd be 1.3 more, so a little over, about 5, right? Is my math right?
5.2.
About 5, thank you very much. So, and knowing there's $13 million cushion in the fund balance, it's unassigned. So there's $13 million gap between what is required at the 5% policy of $28 million, and it's sitting at $41 million unassigned. There's $13 million sitting there that the district could make the decision how to spend that money. We're asking for an additional 0.5% to give everybody in the unit the same thing that non-bargaining got, the same thing that our administrative friends are going to get, plus the TSIA that is provided. And then, you know, I'm hoping that 1% is still on the table for the non-recurring bonus. But to your point of declining enrollment, I'll tell you that the teachers and the staff, and we talked about them yesterday, but the teachers and the staff are the ones that the parents trust. The teachers and the staff are what keep kids coming back here. Now, we've got games that are being played at the state level that are providing incentives to draw folks away.
Correct.
But all of the recognitions and all of the good things that we see on social media, those happen because of the teachers and the staff. They don't have, and don't take this the wrong way, and I don't mean it maliciously, but they don't happen because of the folks that work in the offices at DAC or at Olson. And I'm not talking about the workers, I'm talking about, you know, higher ups. The good work that happens in our schools is because of the people that are depending on the outcome of this article and the ones that we talked about last night. how are we not gonna be able to try to get them at least what's been provided for non-bargaining?
I will tell you, we value all employees, and every employee contributes to the success of our district. We believe that. And I said this a few moments ago, and I want to be transparent and crystal clear. We came here with what we had. We went back and even worked hard to get that additional 1% in that bonus for the year. I don't see us coming back with any additional compensation, and that's why I wanted to lay it out on the table tonight and be honest and transparent, because we have some decisions to make on both sides of the table.
Well, there's an executive session that's scheduled for next Tuesday. I saw that posted on board docs. You know, I think there's a way to get a deal done, but I don't think that the way to get the deal done is at 1.5% COLA. It's just not, it's not something that shows respect to everybody that's doing the work.
And I know you say 1.5% COLA, and I understand why you're saying, that clearly. And it is not our fault that the legislative body changed the TSIA on the first and second year teachers. If it were not for that change, it would be 2% for all of instructional bargaining. It would be that.
But how do you then, but I don't understand that logic with the amount of reserves that are available in the unassigned. A 2% increase is 5 mil, about 5 million. That still gives 8 million in the reserves that can be used for whatever purpose you deem appropriate.
So I'm not the CFO, so I won't speak to those fiscal numbers because that's not my area of purview. But I will tell you in the analysis and things we've done, and again, as I said the last time when the CFO was sitting next to me, is that he has a responsibility to the board and to the district to keep the district in sound fiscal footing. And that is his position to present, and then the board lets us know the direction that we're gonna go, and that's where we are tonight. This is the position we're in.
Okay, so, but it is up to the board, and they do have an executive session scheduled for next week, and I'm sure that at some level you'll report back about our conversations tonight. You're writing pretty furiously over there. Do you wanna say something?
I do want to say something, but it's not that.
Okay, go ahead then. But our desire is to avoid the October 1st doomsday,
Sure.
right? We're not trying to be obstructionists, but we're trying to end where, quite frankly, it'll get ratified too, because that's the other concern, right? If we were to agree to something that doesn't honor the work that's been done and provide respect to the people that do the work, there's no guarantee that that's gonna get ratified. And then what are we going to do, right? Because that is a very real consideration that we have to think about.
Sure.
And I just said to you a few minutes ago, I don't make all the decisions. Our members drive our organization. So we could say, oh, well, we'll accept, put it out, and it fails tremendously.
Just like you, we are here in the same capacity, bargaining in good faith to try to reach an agreement for our employees. Same parameters we have.
I'm telling you.
I get it.
What I think the minimum needs to be in order to even have the conversation with the members. Go ahead.
Not talking about first and second year teachers, but thinking about someone and salary schedules don't exist, but someone at the top of that salary schedule, who's been in the district for a long time, right? The TSIA grandfather amount is a fixed amount. I don't know what it is because I don't have it in front of me. Let's say it's
Correct.
whatever
You're right.
whatever the number is. And so that
performance
$400
pay, right.
is not 0.5% of their salary. So their 1.5 COLA plus the 0.3 or 0.4 that it ends up being from TSA is not a 2% package for them. And I'm not counting the first 2 years because they're going to be at 1.5.
Which is the same in every district in Florida.
Correct.
It's exactly the same that Seminole's doing, it's exactly the same as Osceola's doing, because those are the rules that were
State.
set to us by the
Absolutely.
state with performance pay.
Absolutely. Statute is in there.
Correct.
And that is why, I think when Elizabeth was talking about the marching orders as it appears at the board meetings, because I just watched the board meetings, right, is that everyone gets a minimum of 2. And I'm not thinking about first year teachers, I'm not thinking about second year teachers, I'm thinking about the 34-year teacher who's getting 1.8, because that's not 2.
Could I say, and I'll tell you why. Because I have a great respect for you and for Todd. I'm not a math person. I'm actually currently struggling through 7th grade algebra for the second time in my life. I appreciate that. But I do want to make something clear, just because as we talk, we're throwing a lot of numbers, and that's important. That's part of the conversation. But I wanted everyone to know from our side. So we came in with our initial discussion, right? We talked about the 1.5 and the TSIA, and we heard, right? Everyone in this room, our employees, I work with some of them regularly. My wife's an educator. I haven't been in the classroom, but I know what goes into the job. And even then we were saying, listen, this is coming from, we've got the TSAA, we've got this amount. And I think John said this kind of quickly, but I think it's worth noting. After that, we went back and we really said, okay, is there a place where we can find more money? And that's what we're coming with tonight. And so the reason I say that is just, I do just want to make the understanding across the table, and I understand what you're saying, that for y'all, that may not be it. But when John is saying, hey, listen, we're at a place here where this is it, that is because we went back and actually started going, okay, where can cuts be done? And we didn't just pull money, we were like, where can we do this? And so I just want to make that point less from a numbers perspective and more from a situational understanding, that's all.
And that's appreciated, because as demonstrated in our counter tonight, we went back and revisited some of the things that we initially put across the table. So I think there is a willingness to work, and that's why I don't want to give up on the 30th. I don't want to give up on that. So going back to what we talked about before, 2% for one group, and 1.5% for another, that actually is the one that results in student achievement. That is not I don't think you're gonna be able to sell that. So, anything else, Matt? Okay, so we are looking forward to seeing you again on the 30th. We will see you on the 24th. We can host here for support.
So I just want to make sure we're clear. You don't want to talk to them and find out about the TSIA piece or anything like that at this point in time.
So our group has diminished because the evening has gone later than we thought. I would like to have the ability to survey our members, because there are 2,700 of them. Not, bless the people who were able to stay tonight. Yeah.
Could you do that tomorrow?
I can create a survey tomorrow and put it out, sure. Yeah, we will definitely be communicating about this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, thank you all. And thank you for staying an hour and a half late. I think it was a good conversation.
We needed to have it.